All right, series check-in time, especially because other people have been posting them lately, which has made me excited. Jess did hers, and then I want to follow this, she's kind of like lit fic and fantasy and sci-fi YouTuber, Freshly Read Books. I think that's the name. I'll link both of them down below. I'm just like, series check-in time. I think actually even Bethany did one recently. Anyways, it just gets me in the mood, and like I always do them around the equinoxes, and actually, normally I get very close to like June 20th. It's out there, and I'm just behind. I wanted to do the Octavia Butler video more. So here I am. We're going to go over what I've read since last time. And I actually did look at my last video, and I did read or attempt to read everything I mentioned. So that's a first, everybody. Things that I might not be continuing for now, and things that I want to read in the next upcoming season. And you can join me at any point, and I'll point out any relevant videos as we go. So starting off, I actually did finish 2 things, and I'm caught up on 2 things. So go me, I would have been caught up on 5 things, but then another series just got another book. And I don't even know if I want to continue that series, so we'll get there. First one I finished was the Indian Lake trilogy, and I have a should you read for this. Oh, it was so good. It was so good. I just love this slasher trilogy with my entire heart. I think it's incredibly cathartic. It's very emotional. As I say in that series, the fun factor might not be as there in the 3rd book because it's heavy, and like rightfully so. Like it would almost be like, how can I even suspend my disbelief even more to believe that this town is actually okay after what it's been through? So yeah, very good combination of camp and art and themes and entertainment. Just, it's great. Highly recommend. Check out that video if you want more coherent thoughts. I also finished my reread of the Inheritance trilogy, which I think by the time you're seeing this, I have finally uploaded my revamped Inheritance trilogy should you read, because the first should you read I ever did was the Inheritance trilogy, and I filmed that on a webcam in 2020, like my first month of YouTube. So I wanted to redo that just a little bit. I love it. It was great, like it always is. Did primarily audiobook this time around, and that was fantastic. And I buddy read it with Laura at a book circus, so such a good time. I also decided that Beyond the Walls, is that what it's called? Those Beyond the Wall is actually a sequel to The Space Between Worlds, having read it. So I'm caught up on that series if we ever get any more in that world. I forget what the world is called. Ash? Is that Outside the Wall? I can't remember. It's a fascinating series. I really love it. I love both books. I did not reread The Space Between Worlds before reading this book, but I love them both. It was a great time. This time we get to spend more time outside the walls, which I was really interested in. We do have a return of characters from the first book, which is why I've decided it's a series. Because it's also even just more than a cameo sort of presence. Like, it's actually, like, substantial. There are main characters from the first book that are playing roles in this one. So yeah, I really like it. It is a very heavy, angry voice. So you may or may not be in the mood for that. I really enjoyed it. I probably still like The Space Between Worlds more. But I don't know. I'll read anything Micaiah Johnson writes. And then I read Just for the Summer, which is the 3rd book in Just Part of Your World series. I don't know if there'll be more. I don't know if there is. I will read it, of course. I'm obsessed for this contemporary romance. And I say it's a series. Well, A, because it's marketed as a series. But B, you can read this book without knowing anything else about Part of Your World. But there are moments of pure fan delight if you've read the other books. Like, there's one crossover, and you're like, oh, this is a fun little thing. The second crossover? What? And then, like, because I read the first 2 in winter, I totally, like, forgot about some connections, so I might have noticed it earlier if I'd read them back to back. Mine just, like, and this one is probably the heaviest. So, like, you know, handle yourself with care depending on how heavy you like your contemporary romance. I like mine a little heavier than most, I feel. Regardless, I laughed. I had emotions. I got insomnia. 'Twas a good time, minus the insomnia. But, you know, having insomnia because of a good book is not that bad. Next up, I did read Tainted Cup, like I said I would. So the start of a series. I'm pretty sure I will continue it just because the world is really cool, even though it's by far not my favorite Robert Jackson Bennett. But also, we'll see what happens, because sometimes he follows the same characters from book to book, and sometimes he switches it up. So I don't know for sure if the main character of this book would even be the main character of the next book. And that could really change the scenario for me. Maybe we'll get to have the, like, main investigator as our point of view next book. That would be cool. So those are all the things that I'm caught up with. And now we're just going to go through other stuff that I have played around with. Let's start first with the series that I sort of worked on, but I think right now are on pause. And so first one being Malazan. The brain just wasn't braining with it. We're just going to put it on pause. It's a Stormlight year. Maybe when it's not a Stormlight year, I'll get back to it. But I am infinitely more excited to read Stormlight than I am Malazan. And I just, like, if I read Malazan at the same time, I would probably just only be reading those two series all year with maybe a few books here and there. And that's just not exciting for me. So it's on pause for now. And then the Singing Hills cycle. So I did read 2 books for this because I was tentatively I was on to see if I had opinions on like the Nebula novellas and also the Hugo novellas. And the 4th book in this series was on both lists. Heck, I think the 3rd book was on the list last year. People love Singing Hills. I like Nevo. Siren Queen is one of my favorite underrated speculative fiction works. It is incredibly good. I think about purchasing it fairly regularly. A, because the cover is shimmery, and I love a shimmery cover. And B, I like Golden Age of Hollywood stuff. And it's a great commentary on Golden Age of Hollywood. Like, fantastic. So, I say this as someone who's a fan of Nevo. I just don't like these novellas. They're fine. They're absolutely fine. But nothing has met Empress of Salt and Fortune level for me. Which is why it's like, I know a 5th one just came out. It's a gothic one. But, like, I just don't know if I want it. I loved the first novella. I think the first novella and Siren Queen are my favorite Nevo works that I have read, and I still need to read Chosen and the Beautiful and any other novels she comes out with. But this novella series has just, like, been so aggressively 3 to 3.5 star for me that I'm just like, I don't want to. And it was the same thing with Murderbot. Like, there are a lot of loved novella series that just, like, I bounce off of me. What's the one Shauna Maguire does? That one also I just bounce right off of. And I just think they're too short for me to get the emotional catharsis that I want, potentially. I don't know. And then I also did just have, like, thematically disconnects with the 4th one, which is Mammoths at the Gate. I don't know. It was a weird time. So that's on pause. Maybe I'll DNF it. I don't know. I wasn't even really anticipating reading these. So, like, never say never. I'm caught up enough that if I ever, for completionist sake, want to read the 5th novella, if it gets nominated, let's say when it gets nominated, then I could read it then. But it's not a priority. Let's just put it that way. Okay. So, things that I've continued and will be continuing into summer. I read Words of Radiance and Edge Dancer in the spring. Woo! Love it. We do have the live show on Jesse's channel discussing those for Roger's Read Along. I am currently reading Oathbringer, and in the summer plan to finish Oathbringer and read Dawnshard. And per usual, I just feel weird how much I love Oathbringer more on each reread because it's used to be my least favorite, and I don't know if it's becoming my favorite, and I don't know how to feel about it. So, yeah. But I like Stormlight. Stormlight's a very fun time for me. It's very cozy. I've been in that world. It's almost been 2 decades, guys. That's wild. Actually, no, only a decade and a half. That makes me feel better. For a second, I thought it'd been 20 years. I'm like, oh no. But no, I started in 2010. Another one that I've continued was Terra Ignota. I read 7 Surrenderers. And I would really like to finish it in the summer. I just had so much happening in May that I just couldn't get to it. Like, I didn't have the mental capacity. So bare minimum, Will to Battle, which is the 3rd book. But I would love to just finish it. I would really like to just sit down, knock out 1 a month or 1 every month and a half or something like that. Next up, I'm calling it World of the White Rat. I think that's actually a name for all the books in this world, but there are, like, 2 distinct series and a current standalone that'll become a series. I've been reading it in world chronological order. I started with The Clockwork Boys and Wonder Engine. And I liked this, but I didn't love it nearly as much as other T. Kingfisher. It's probably, honestly, a little bit above The Raven and the Reindeer. Is that a book name? I like Raven and the Reindeer, but it's not like a favorite. I think it's probably around that level. I really liked Clockwork Boys. I thought Wonder Engine took too long. And it did stuff in the 3rd act breakup that I just wasn't a big fan of. I don't know. And then I had a similar issue with Sword Heart, where the 3rd act breakup, I had different issues with the Sword act breakup, but, like, normally a 3rd act breakup doesn't bother me, but I think for both of these, the similarity was I felt like characters were contrived to act a certain way so the 3rd act breakup could happen, and it didn't feel organic to me. Like, I'm okay with a miscommunication trope, but this didn't feel like that. So I don't know. Like, I still love the world. Like, I think the world of the White Rat is so cool. The horror elements are so disturbing. We have these vagrant hills that are just, like, so fun whenever our characters get shoved in it. Love it. And I liked Swordheart's main characters more. I think that was a big thing. There were moments that kind of touched me in Wonder Engine. Like, it's all, like, I like a lot of the stuff. A lot of it's just, like, classic T. Kingfisher. But there were just enough stumbling bumps that I'm like, I don't think either of these will be like my faves. But that said, I'm going to continue with what's it called? Paladin's Grace. We'll continue. And that's the start of, I actually don't know how many books are supposed to be in it. I just know 4 books are out now, if that makes sense. And I think that's the Saint of Steels, which is fun to think about because I was introduced to that idea in Swordheart. So very cool. I've also continued with my Verkosigan Saga journey. I read Ethan of Athos and Borders of Infinity, which is a collection of 3 novellas, I think. So next up would be Brothers in Arms. I enjoyed Ethan of Athos. This is kind of like more of a standalone thought. It does have a character you get introduced to in a different Verkosigan book. I think Warrior's Apprentice. Is that even a name? I'm now just combining sci-fi fantasy nouns together and hoping they are book titles. Regardless, there was a character that was a side supporting character who ends up being a main character in this book, and you get to be introduced to a different culture in the solar system, and it's just a very fun episodic adventure, which is just what Verkosigan Saga is so good at doing. I just really like Bejold's style. Yeah. So next up is Brother in Arms and Mirror Dance. I think are the 2 that I could realistically get to in the summer. I might get to more, I might get to less. I for sure want to get to at least 1. So that would be the goal. I don't know if I'll get to other Bejeweled in the summer, but if you recently saw my Friday read / book haul, I did purchase some of the fantasy Bejeweled. They're the Penric and Desdemona novellas. So there's a non-zero chance I start those. But I haven't also decided the reading order I want to go with Bejeweled for her fantasy. So jury's out. I don't know. I don't necessarily think there's a wrong way, especially based off her author's note and how much time there is between books. I just have to commit to something, you know? And then I did see in the Discord that apparently a new Penric and Desdemona novella will be coming out soon. And wouldn't it be fun to be caught up before then? So, yeah. Who knows? Who knows? So that's the Bejeweled update. Last thing are things that I'm going to potentially start. And per usual, this is a non-exhaustive list of like 2 things. And more may happen. But as I look at all the things that I've bolded on this list, because I have my computer down here, this feels like plenty of books to read. But you know, if Terra Ignota gets finished earlier, I might throw in a sci-fi thing that I haven't mentioned on the list, stuff like that. But in August, I believe it's August. No, in September. Yes, and I believe I'll do it at the beginning of September, so it still counts for summer, because summer is until September 20th. Or something like that. I'm going to start my reread of The Jasmine Throne because in November we get the 3rd book, The Lotus Empire. So on my Patreon we're going to do September, The Jasmine Throne, October, The Only Undersword, and November, The Lotus Empire. And I am so pumped. It's going to be so fun. Like, the end of the year is going to be such a good time for reading because then I have that series and then I'll be rereading Rhythm of War in the fall. So that's not for this video. But then, you know, Fifth Stormlight in the winter and December. It's gonna be so fun. But The Jasmine Throne is one of my favorite books. I really love it a lot. I don't think I have like a should you read or anything for it. I'll probably for sure make one once I finish The Lotus Empire, but that'll be, you know, in the fall when we get it. And then I think another series that I want to try is The Wolf. I tentatively tried during one of my reading sprints for the read along that we did for my Patreons, but my brain was just like, whoop, nope, not happening. This is too descriptive for what I can handle right now, but it is on my physical TBR, so I would like to give it a chance. And I just noticed actually in my bag, oh no, you actually want to read this too in the summer. Like you wanted to give it a shot. That's why you requested it. I have an arc for it, both physical and ebook. And this is the Alchemist, the Journal's Alchemist series. It has Middle Game in it. I love Middle Game. I was so beyond disappointed with Seasonal Fears. I should see what Tidal Creatures has in store, you know? So I have Tidal Creatures. So that's a series continuation that I didn't read in the spring. So that's the only continuation that's like showing up here. So yeah, that's this video. Let me know what you're continuing, trying to finish or start this summer season. And if you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, Oh, what do I want? There's a lot of references to swords and such like that. So let's do a sword emoji. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.